from the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill. We know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. Today we've got the latest on Syria. A suspect finally in custody after the brazen shooting of the UnitedHealthcare CEO and a rap mogul on the hot seat. We'll get you caught up on all of it, but first we begin with the headlines. More than 70 Nobel Prize winners write an open letter to the U.S. Senate opposing the nomination of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the next Health and Human Services Secretary. Picked by President-elect Donald Trump, Kennedy has spent years spreading misinformation about vaccines and COVID-19. Chinese President Xi Jinping warns there will be no winners in a trade war with the United States. His ominous words come as President-elect Donald Trump plans to unleash devastating tariffs on China when he takes office in January. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu takes the stand in a long-running corruption scandal for the first time. He's accused of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust and is now forced to juggle between the war room and courtroom. South Africa once again shuts its border crossing with Mozambique as violence continues to escalate in the African nation. At least 90 people have been killed in Mozambique in the violent aftermath of the disputed October presidential election. And Japan adopts a 4-day work week for government employees in Tokyo to encourage young couples to have more children amid Japan's historic low fertility rates. The policy takes effect beginning April of 2025. We begin in the Middle East, where the situation in Syria is becoming more fluid as Islamist rebels set to officially take power in Damascus. Meanwhile, Israeli warplanes carried out large-scale attacks across the war-ravaged country, targeting major airports and military infrastructure. They reportedly struck Syria's weapons production facilities and chemical weapons site. Now, the number of airstrikes carried out is believed to be around 300 since Sunday. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is acting to stop weapons from falling into the hands of hostile forces in the wake of the dramatic fall of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad's regime.
We are taking all the actions necessary to try to ensure our security with regard to the new situation created in Syria.
Netanyahu added that Israel has captured more land in Syria-controlled territory of the Golan Heights as the decades-old ceasefire agreement collapsed, with Syrian soldiers abandoning their positions.
Together with Defense Minister Israel Katz and with the backing of all cabinet members, I instructed the IDF to seize the buffer zone between us and Syria and the positions controlling and adjacent to it. This also includes the summit of Hermon, what is called the Syrian Hermon.
Golan Heights is a rocky plateau of about 40 miles between Israel and Syria. Israel seized the land in the 1967 war and annexed it in 1981. The international community views it as an illegally occupied Syrian territory apart from the United States, which recognized it as part of Israel in 2019.
Today, everyone understands the great importance of our being there at the Golan and not at the foot of the Golan. Our control of the Golan Heights guarantees our security. It guarantees our sovereignty. And on this occasion, I would like to thank my friend, President-elect Donald Trump, for accepting my request to recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights in 2019. Today, this historic recognition gains stronger validity and greater importance. The Golan Heights will forever be an inseparable part of the state of Israel.
Now, Israel has deployed troops across the border into Syria for the first time in 50 years. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned that ISIS will try to rebuild its capabilities in Syria amid the political instability. But Washington will not let that happen.
The end of this regime is a defeat for all who enabled its barbarity and its corruption. None more than Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia. So this moment presents a historic opportunity, but it also carries considerable risks. History shows how quickly moments of promise can descend into conflict and violence. ISIS will try to use this period to reestablish its capabilities, to create safe havens. As our precision strikes over the weekend demonstrate, we are determined not to let that happen.
Notably, the U.S. Air Force has also been carrying out airstrikes across Syria since the weekend. Bashar al-Assad remains in Moscow, and Syria's prime minister has agreed to hand over power to the Islamist rebels. And here in the United States, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban met President-elect Donald Trump, billionaire Elon Musk, and Congressman Mike Waltz at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida last night. Taking to social media platform X, the Hungarian leader posted about his interaction. However, the details of their discussions have not been made public. Now, Viktor Orban is known for his nationalist and controversial leadership in Hungary and is a staunch Trump ally and one of his most vocal international supporters. His visit comes as Hungary faces increasing isolation in the European Union due to democratic backsliding, opposition to military aid for Ukraine, and close ties to Russia's Vladimir Putin. This visit marked the Hungarian Prime Minister's third meeting with the president-elect at Mar-a-Lago this year, highlighting their deepening partnership.
The result of the American presidential election created a new reality. And with the establishment of the Sovereign Patriot Group, a new reality was created in Europe. Everyone sees that new forces will be successful, those that until now have been pushed back. The future is for the sovereign, independent, proud, and success-hungry nations. This is the new reality. In Europe, everyone must adapt their own destiny and their own policies to this.
Time and again, Donald Trump has consistently promised to end the war in Ukraine, suggesting negotiations with both the Ukrainian president and Russia's Putin that could leave parts of Ukraine under Russian control. The Hungarian prime minister has publicly endorsed this plan, stating that Donald Trump's approach aligns with his opposition to funding the war.
We do not have the money for war, so all signs of European weakness have appeared. Consequently, after the war, we will have to think about a whole European reorganization, which will guarantee the security of European countries and will also determine America's place in this European security system. Meanwhile, there are two American presidents, one pro-war and the other pro-peace. This causes confusion. Everyone knows that President Trump is coming and he will make attempts to make peace.
The Prime Minister's meeting in Florida follows recent diplomatic activity by Donald Trump, including discussions with French President Emmanuel Macron and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Paris.
We are in the process of discussing various matters. We must work, have more and more meetings. Our teams will work as well. It is important. It is too early to talk about anything. Ukraine's position is clear. It is very important that partners know our stance from us and not from someone else. Without Ukraine, this just peace or any agreements are impossible. Our partners hear this. I am very glad that they understand it.
With global leaders grappling with potential shifts in U.S. foreign policy, all eyes are now on Donald Trump's next move. Could this recent meeting between Viktor Orban and the president-elect signal the beginning of a dramatic geopolitical realignment? And staying in the United States, President-elect Donald Trump has suggested that Mexico and Canada should become U.S. states if they want to continue receiving subsidies. During his interview with NBC News on Sunday, the president-elect ranted about U.S. trade deficits as a result of the free trade agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico.
We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state. All I want to do is to have a level, fast, but fair playing field.
Now, Donald Trump seemed to be exaggerating the numbers, as the U.S. trade deficit in goods was around $64 billion with Canada and $152 billion with Mexico in 2023. And for the first 10 months of this year, the deficit figures was about $50 billion with Canada and around $141 billion with Mexico. Meanwhile, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum took aim at Donald Trump on Monday, reminding him that he was the one who in fact orchestrated and signed the free trade deal during his first term.
Obviously, Mexico is a free, sovereign, and independent country. I understand that this subsidy he speaks about has to do with the increase in Mexico's exports to the United States, which now exceed Mexico's imports from the U.S. More than looking at each other as competition, we have to look at each other as complementary. It was President Trump who signed the USMCA, and the United States has had a lot of benefits from the agreement.
Donald Trump's comments come days after he threatened to impose a 25% tariff on all Mexican and Canadian exports on day one of his presidency. However, he said the motivation for the tariff was not trade imbalance, but the problem of drugs and migrants coming illegally into the United States via these countries. Following the threat, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau rushed to have dinner with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. However, the president-elect made a mockery of their meeting and called Trudeau the governor of the great state of Canada. Meanwhile, President Sheinbaum said she was doing everything to stop migrant caravans from reaching the U.S.-Mexico border.
Donald Trump raised the issue of migration on their southern border, our northern border, and the issue of fentanyl because those are two issues that he is concerned about. And that was the argument, let's say, for introducing the tariffs. I raised all these issues with President Trump, and I told him that the caravan he mentioned in his publication, well, that caravan in reality is not going to reach the northern border because we have a strategy in place and it's being taken care of in our country.
Now, it's no secret that the incoming commander-in-chief's tariffs would significantly impact the trade relationship between the three countries, raising the prices of goods for all Americans. But it remains to be seen if Donald Trump would sabotage his own free trade pact with Mexico and Canada and let Americans suffer. Days after the brazen Manhattan killing of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, police on Monday arrested a 26-year-old Ivy League graduate at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Luigi Mangione, who hails from a wealthy family from Maryland, was arrested after a customer recognized him and tipped off the authorities. When arrested, Mangione was carrying a 3D printed gun, fake IDs, and a manifesto railing against corporate greed. Now, how did Mangione go from blue blood to an alleged cold-blooded killer? Our next report uncovers the full story.
The cold-blooded murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson reads like a thriller. But the aftermath? That's where the story takes an unexpected, almost a surreal turn. Thompson, 50, was gunned down in broad daylight outside the New York Hilton Midtown last Wednesday. Surveillance footage shows a masked man pacing on the sidewalk, scanning the crowd. Then, he spots Thompson, strides across the street, and fires. A brazen, calculated hit, one bullet in the back, and another in the right calf. The gunman fled into Central Park, ditched his bike, and vanished. Until 5 days later, when he reappeared in the unlikeliest of places, a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old Ivy League graduate, was munching on a meal when a sharp-eyed customer thought, "Hey, isn't that the guy from the news?" Calm but decisive, the customer tipped off an employee who quietly called the cops. And moments later, Mangione was in custody, still mid-burger.
Earlier Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen, targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police.
Police found Mangione carrying a 3D printed ghost gun, a muzzle suppressor, multiple fake IDs, and a handwritten manifesto railing against corporate greed. The clothes in his bag also matched those worn during the crime, and his weapon was consistent with the murder weapon.
Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset.
Mayor Eric Adams called Mangione's capture a testament to everyday heroes. But the public's reaction was far from heroic. While Thompson's colleagues and family grieved, the internet erupted in a firestorm of memes and mockery. Good riddance, some wrote, blaming Thompson for the frustrations millions face with denied claims and rising medical bills, while others created tasteless jokes, turning the murder into a viral punchline. Even McDonald's wasn't spared in the chaos. Trolls review-bombed the Altoona branch, flooding Google with absurd one-star comments. Rats in the kitchen, one review screamed, they'll make you sick, and insurance won't cover it. The irony wasn't lost. But Google quickly removed the posts, calling them a violation of their policies.
But some attention in this case, especially online, has been deeply disturbing, as some have looked to celebrate instead of condemning this killer. Brian Thompson was a father to two. He was a husband, and he was a friend to many. And yes, he was the CEO of a health insurance company. In America, we do not kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences or express a viewpoint.
Mangione, a 2020 graduate from the University of Pennsylvania, is believed to have acted alone. His writings point to deep resentment of corporate America, which police believe fueled his actions. His high school friends said they were shocked to learn the one-time prep school valedictorian may have been struggling.
He was always doing the right thing. Mangione always had a smile on his face. Never really got the vibes of him being socially awkward. So that's why I'm really surprised. I graduated in 2015. He graduated in 2016. It's crazy how 10 years later, how people can change.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro praised the McDonald's employee for their bravery and even bluntly declared, this killer is no hero.
In America, we do not kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences or express a viewpoint. In some dark corners, this killer is being hailed as a hero. Hear me on this. He is no hero. The real heroes every day in our society are the women and men who put on uniforms like these and go out in our communities to keep us safe. This killer was not a hero. He should not be hailed.
United Health Group called the tragedy unspeakable, expressing hope that justice would bring Thompson's loved ones some solace. The story, however, has become more than a murder case. It's a mirror reflecting public anger at systemic failures and the ease with which tragedy is transformed into spectacle.
And we end in the world of hip-hop as rapper Jay-Z is embroiled in a legal storm. A woman who has already accused music mogul Sean Diddy Combs of raping her has now named Jay-Z in the same lawsuit. The woman claims that both Sean Combs and Jay-Z sexually assaulted her at an after-party following the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards when she was just 13 years old. The lawsuit filed in New York claims Jay-Z allegedly held the victim down and assaulted her while Sean Combs watched the heinous act unfold. Though Jay-Z has dismissed all allegations, calling them targeted blackmailing, the story is far from over. Here's our final report with more.
Those shades.
Well. Looks like rapper Jay-Z has found himself in a sticky situation. The rapper, who's married to pop royalty Beyoncé and has 3 kids, is now facing some serious allegations. This time, it's something a little more disturbing. Jay-Z is now embroiled in a lawsuit for allegedly raping a 13-year-old girl back in the year 2000. The whole mess started when an anonymous woman, referred to as Jane Doe, filed a lawsuit claiming that Jay-Z raped her when she was a mere 13 years old at an after-party following the MTV Video Music Awards in New York City. According to her, she was lured to this alleged party by a limo driver working for none other than Sean Diddy Combs, a man whose name seems to be attached to every scandal in America's music industry. Once the teenager arrived, she claims she was coerced into signing a non-disclosure agreement, and then she was drugged. According to the lawsuit, Jay-Z, Sean Diddy Combs, and some unnamed female celebrity assaulted her. The woman alleges that she's been dealing with PTSD and depression ever since.
Her lawyer amended the lawsuit on Sunday to include Jay-Z in a new allegation that he was at the party and also participated in the sexual assault.
Jay-Z is not exactly laying low. On a post on social media, he went full-on rage mode, claiming the whole thing is an attempt to blackmail him. He accused his accuser's lawyer, Tony Busby, of trying to extort him. Jay-Z, who's married to Beyoncé, stated that his only heartbreak is for his family. He said, and I quote, "My wife and I will have to sit our children down, one of whom is at the age where her friends will surely see the press and ask questions about the nature of these claims and explain the cruelty and greed of people." He added that children should not have to endure at such a young age. Jay-Z shares his 12-year-old daughter Blue Ivy and twins Rumi and Sir, aged 7, both with Beyoncé. Jay-Z's lawyer Alex Spiro threw in some spicy legal language of his own, demanding that Jane Doe reveal her identity or drop the lawsuit.
His lawyer also argued on Monday that the woman, who is only identified as Jane Doe, should have to make her identity public or have her lawsuit dismissed. The woman is being represented by a famous trial attorney in Houston named Tony Busby, who is representing around 120 men and women in allegations of sexual misconduct against Sean Combs.
Now, let's not pretend Jay-Z has exactly been a saint in the past, because this isn't his first brush with controversy which involves young women. Remember Aaliyah, the talented young R&B singer who tragically passed away at 22? Well, turns out Jay-Z was allegedly vying for her attention while she was in a relationship. He wasn't just sending her mixtapes, he apparently tried very hard to win her over when she was 20 and he was 29. Then comes his better half, Beyoncé. Let's not forget that their love story has been under a microscope since day one. Jay-Z himself has confessed that they met when she was 18, and by the time she was 19, they were already a thing. Jay-Z was 30 at the time. So here we are. Jay-Z, the mogul who's rapped his way to success and built an empire, is now finding himself at the center of serious allegations that might just destroy everything he's worked for. Is he innocent? Is this all a case of blackmail? Rest assured, this tale is far from over.
That's all we have time for today. We certainly thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.